I would classify myself as a materials stroke investigation engineer. So we get involved with investigating and testing an array of assets which generally are covered as highway structures, bridges and buildings. So we've been working with Proceq and their equipment for longer than I'd like to know, and also previous companies who they've purchased from. Some of the equipment they're using was designed by a company I used to work for 30 years ago. So yeah, a long history going back. You know, a lot of the guys I've worked with who designed a lot of the equipment that the Proceq are now adapting and bringing, you know, innovation to the market. So they'll actually listen to you as a client, which is something a lot of, it sounds crazy in this day and age, but we were detailing some of the issues that we had, and some of the equipment that I used, like I say, 25 years ago plus, that has now been adapted, that we can bring real innovation and change the way that we can now test structures. Two examples of what's certainly come into the market in the last 10, 15 years is GPR, which is, we were using other GPR's been around for a number of years, but the use of GPR to ascertain details in structures is something that's been far more the last sort of 10 years. Proceq have been quite forceful in that market, and disruptive, I think, was the word that Marcel would used to use. So that was great, but the other one that really has helped us out is the tomography, which is the Pundit Live Array. And because of the failure of the bridge in Genoa, we're now revisiting a lot of the post-tension bridges in the UK and overseas. And this is why the event today is quite poignant, because it's Proceq, the equipment, and then you've got BBR who build post-tension structures. So we can see really good synergy why Proceq came out of the BBR, and hence we can use, you know, both information from both of them too. It does something that we couldn't do before. So with particular to the post-tensioning, BBR obviously manufacture post-tensioning and sell it and construct bridges and car parks around the world. The big concern with post-tension structures, and again, a great case is the Genoa Bridge. When you have issues with the post-tensioning, because it's encased in a sheath, in a metal sheath, we don't get any outward signs, so there's no cracking, spalling, rust staining. So when there is a problem, you tend to find the bridge just falls down. That's what's happened over a number of years. There was a bridge in South Wales in the 1980s that happened. So because of that, we're now regularly having to not just inspect, but test to find hidden defects. And the thing with the Pundit Live Array, for the first time ever, we can actually detect voids within the sheath, which is going to be where you get a very high risk of corrosion occurring there. So that's where it's something that's really changed how we sell the technology. Well, really, we have the technology. Telling people what the technology is important, but the applications of the technology are far more important, and it's easier to sell the application than it is the kit. And then the big thing that we do state is that then you need to ensure that the client is well aware of the limitations of the techniques. And it's, you know, it doesn't always work, but it will work a hell of a lot more than it used to do. So that's the sort of innovation that we're trying, and we're testing it out. It was predominantly initially for finding voids in ducts, but we've used it for finding just other defects in concrete, which has been massively successful for us. It's very difficult to sell a technique when most of the time, you know, my wife has said, it's because someone's made a big mistake. Well, how do I market that? And you just have to be there and ensure that the client knows there's the equipment, the technology and the application that you can use it for. What we tend to find is, it's something that we've mentioned quite recently to a couple of the guys in Proceq, that we do need more training, because we think, and our clients think, it's a fantastic bit of equipment, and I don't think we use it to its full capacity, which is just our fault. And it's a case of, that's where, what I do like about working with Proceq is you say to them, look, we feel we're only using maybe 25% of the software capability. And a lot of clients do get visibly turned on by a lot of the stuff that we can put in a report. And I don't think we're playing, I wouldn't say playing the game, but it is a case of this. A lot of the clients would probably understand fundamentally more the technology if we had some glossy pictures and such like. But for me, it's, does it work? Does it tell me what I need on site? And even if it's just a case of it does produce some great plots that we can then quite easily transform and put into the report and annotate. And that's the great thing about it. We can annotate the drawing online while we're doing it with the software and then show the client, and the client goes, I know what you mean now. Saying every day is a school day. We're still finding, applications, like we did one for radar recently, where, or a few years ago now, where we use radar to scan a barrel of whiskey to find out the amount of evaporation. And we use that as a great selling tool. We say, you can use it as a glorified cover meter to find rebar in concrete, or you can find missing whiskey. And there's a lot of other applications between the two. So it's a nice way of very much generalising the width of applications it can be, because there's certainly things we haven't thought about, but other companies are probably using it for. So we were, I think, one of the first companies to have some official training with Proceq. So I'd seen it, but it was quite nice to see a lot of the other side of things. And since 5 years ago, there's been quite a growth in the GPR units that they're producing and the software, because I know about DreamLab out in Singapore as well. So I think GS9000, which is far more for ground investigations, which is something we don't really do a lot of at the moment, but that doesn't mean we're not going to maybe start to think about adding that to one of our sectors of where we do investigate. Constantly pushing the boundaries, and what's great is it's a two-way street between us and Proceq as well, which is massively important for us, that they're hearing what we say. For instance, a lot of this technology is produced in the lab where you have a concrete slab which is polished like marble. We don't get that out on site, and we said, can you do some more rough terrain wheels on it? It just makes life easier for us. No, of course we'll do that. That's great. So that is that, to see the adaptation of it coming from initial problems on site. We do have a very ageing infrastructure, very similar to the United States, and as a lot of people have said, if we don't look after our assets, buildings and bridges, they will start falling down, and they are falling down on quite a regular basis across the planet. What we're looking at, and I think certainly with the help of Proceq, is potentially trying to get some training put in place, because unfortunately in the UK there's no real certification scheme for individuals doing the work. We're accredited by a British UCAS, which is United Kingdom Accreditation Service, which is good, but the individual engineers don't have a formal training and certification scheme, but there is in other sectors of NDT, so we'd like to push that, and I know Proceq are quite keen to dovetail in. We may even have to go out and do some work in Germany initially, where they are putting something in place. So yeah, there's lots to do. It's an ever-increasing market, and we need to move. And like someone said, it's not the not the most intelligent or the strongest. It's the ones who can adapt who will be around. And old Charlie Darwin said that back in the day. So, and it applies to our business equally now. So, the whole thing about digital twins and AI is really at the forefront. And certainly we're seeing that. I think a lot of it, where I can see the effect, is on the construction side, where they can actually have a digital twin. And say this is what should be built, and they can then scan it after it's been built to ensure compliance. It'll probably put me out of a job in 30, 40 years' time, but we do need that, because even irrespective of what happens, the issues that we find on site is lack of quality control and quality assurance, which what's great is with the equipment that we're using, we actually bring that to the market now. So if we have found out there's an issue, we can find the issue with the NDT. They then hopefully repair it, and we can then come back and use the equipment again as a quality control device. The Inspect program that Proceq have produced means, with the issues that we've had, you've probably heard in the press about rack concrete in schools and hospitals, I can go to sites now and report there and then, and send the report directly to the client with all the photographs in there. So it's reducing the duplication of things that we used to have to do, like coming back, downloading photographs, pasting and sticking them into reports, in a digital format. It takes a lot of time, whereas with the Inspect program, which I know spent a lot of money to develop it, you just push a button, the report comes out. It's unbelievable. And if you can just imagine, schools want to know their school is safe, and they want to know it like now. So to be able to report within 24 hours at worst case, it's a massive push forward. And I look at it, the value for me is I can put my bill in within 24 hours of finishing the work. Has just shown the synergy between what my company does and showing the guys in Proceq certain applications at times that they didn't know the equipment could be used for is great. We get feedback, And it's just quite nice to be able to pass some of my information over, because there was a chap from the States who didn't know certain bits of equipment and standards and such like. So it's quite nice, because then you know if he's going to get an issue, I might get a phone call to say, we have a problem here, do you think using this GPR or tomography will actually help? So that can only strengthen the relationship between the two of us, and it's beneficial for both parties. You know,